On the night of the grand wedding, the crown prince's beloved threatened to jump into the river, forcing him to abandon me. Everyone waited for me to break down and cause a scene, but I obediently urged, "Human life is paramount. Your Highness. Go now." The crown prince departed satisfied, only to meet a tragic end, his reputation shattered, an arrow piercing his chest. All because in my past life, I had blocked his path out of the palace with a sword across my chest. Though I preserved the Eastern Palace's honor, I earned the reputation of a jealous woman who drove the crown prince's beloved to her death. For years after, the crown prince and I feigned affection. Yet when I was about to give birth, he executed my entire clan on trumped-up charges. Even the child in my womb was ripped from my body and drowned in filthy sewage. Watching the one you loved most die before your eyes. Powerless to stop it, painful. Isn't it? Good. That agony has tormented me for a full decade. It was you who blocked my path, costing Ning her life. Now, you shall pay in blood for your debt. Blinded by hatred, I chose mutual destruction. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned. This lifetime, I will claim power and wealth, and their lives. Your Highness. It's urgent. Mission has climbed onto the moat. She vows to live no longer unless you personally explain yourself. The crimson silk in my hand tightened, and beneath the veil, I realized I had been reborn on the very day of my wedding to Crown Prince Chuxiai. This scene had played out on this day in my past life too. Xin Ning, relying on her time traveler's foresight, grew arrogant and tyrannical, challenging me at every turn. Yet in the matter of marrying the crown prince, her inferior status ensured her utter defeat. But on my wedding night, she threatened to throw herself into the river to humiliate me, forcing the crown prince to abandon me. In that past life, as crown princess, I drew the imperial sword bestowed upon me to block the crown prince's path. For the sake of the Eastern Palace's future and my own reputation, I pleaded earnestly. Our union was decreed by His Majesty. Even if your Highness harbors reluctance, you must not abandon me on our wedding day and openly defy the Emperor's authority. The third prince lurks with intent. The fifth prince waits for his chance. Do you truly wish to hand such ammunition to others? The crown prince stayed for his own future and reputation. But unexpectedly, Xin Ning actually threw herself into the river, even declaring publicly, "I blame only my ill-timed birth. Yu Shu pushed me too far, leaving me no path to survive." I became the scapegoat for driving the Marquis's daughter to her death. Facing accusations of jealousy and cruelty, the crown prince even comforted me. Ning is a strategist from another world. Whether I went or not, she would have met her end unless she became my crown princess. This has nothing to do with you. But you, who gave your all without reservation, that is true devotion to me. To walk beside you is my greatest fortune. I breathed a sigh of relief. I served him with utmost devotion, strategizing for him both within and without the palace. I even pleaded with my father, the general, to lend his full support. In the end, I helped him ascend the throne. Yet the first thing he did upon seizing absolute power was to exact revenge upon me. My father, a lifelong warrior, and my upright elder brother were deceived into approaching the city gates, where countless arrows pierced their chests. Still unsatisfied, Chu Xiai ordered ropes to be looped around their necks as they lay dying. When I personally opened the gates to rush to them, the ropes fastened to the gates themselves brutally hoisted my father and brother into the air. My guards pinned me to the ground, preventing me from saving them. Only after my father and elder brother breathed their last amidst my wails did Chu Xiai slowly emerge. He looked down at me with a bloodthirsty sneer. "Every moment spent beside you, I contemplated how to flay your skin and tear your tendons, how to make you wish for death, so that Ning might forgive me. You Sui Shu, witnessing the most cherished ones die helplessly before your eyes, cruel. Agonizing. Isn't it? Good. The pain of losing On Ning has tormented this emperor day and night for a full decade. Now, it's your turn to atone. A cold blade was thrust into my abdomen by his own hand. The 8-month-old child brutally cut out. Still breathing. The extracted fetus still gasped for breath when he chuckled coldly. Dumped it in a bucket of filth. And tossed it into the moat. The entire Yu clan, 9 generations, was executed for treason and collaboration. The niece who once fawned around him, calling him your highness, uncle, had her neck snapped by his own hands. Her limp body was tossed limp at my feet. Standing on my shoulders. His eyes blazed with fury. All debts you incurred. Your clan's blood shall repay them. My grief pierced me like 1,000 arrows. As he turned triumphantly to execute me by slow slicing, I snatched my niece's hairpin and thrust it through his throat. Blood spattered 3 feet high. As for me, I was hacked to pieces by the guards. My body left in tatters. Unexpectedly, I was reborn. In my past life, I left behind Chu Xiai, only to end up with my reputation utterly ruined and my entire clan annihilated. Since I've been given a second chance, he is the one who ruined my name, and he is the one who deserves to die without a proper burial. Your Highness. I lifted my veil and looked straight at Chu Xiai. Human life is paramount. You may go. Chu Xiai abruptly lifted his gaze. His deep, dark eyes lingered hesitantly on my face. Yet at the guard's urging, he departed without a second thought. The crown princess consort is profoundly virtuous, a blessing to this prince. I shall return shortly. The sweep of his crimson robe across my hand sent shivers down my spine. Every pore seemed to scream, kill him. Kill him. I clamped down on the murderous intent surging through me, forcing a strained smile as I watched him recede into the distance. Only after his figure vanished completely beyond the door did I exhale heavily, feigning deep sorrow as I retreated to the bridal chamber, refusing to see anyone. Then, casting aside the wedding robes, I grabbed a curved bough and dashed through the secret passage behind the bookshelf, a memory from my past life, straight toward the city gates. As the crown prince, yet trapped by love and manipulated by others, let us see how much resolve His Highness possesses to stake everything on love. He is the one who left for love. It should not be me who faces the city's scorn and the emperor and empress's rebuke. I waited by the moat for a quarter of an hour before the crown prince, dressed in plain clothes, quietly approached Shen Ning. Her flowing sleeves seemed poised to catch the wind as she flew away. The moment Shen Ning saw Chu Xiai, all caution vanished. She threw herself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I thought I'd never see your highness again. Thank goodness you came. When Chu Xiai showed no immediate reaction, she tugged at his sleeve, pouting and whining. Is your highness blaming me? You know the system's tasks are all kinds of bizarre. I had no choice. She revealed the gruesome wound on her wrist. To fight the system, I nearly bit myself to death. If your highness doesn't believe me, just let me die. Shen Ning pretended to jump into the water, but Chu Xiai pulled her tightly into his embrace. I know you fear water. Don't be foolish. Tears melted Chu Xi's heart as he kissed each droplet away. I'm sorry. On Ning. I know you've sacrificed so much for me. Shen Ning's eyes brimmed with tears. It's not your highness's fault. Blame the Yu family for pushing too far, leaving you no choice. It matters not. For your highness's great cause, On Ning's suffering is nothing, even if the system punishes me with bone-crushing torment. As long as you hold Aning in your heart, I can endure it all. Chu Xi's heart ached even more. He immediately swore by the heavens. Endure now. When I seize absolute power, the entire Yu clan shall be the first to pay for your suffering. A gentle, captivating smile blossomed across Shen Ning's delicate face, shimmering and alluring in the moonlight. The prince, overcome with passion, lost all restraint and leaned in for a kiss that consumed them both. At that very moment, The Marquis of Changning, whom I had deliberately lured here, appeared in the distance. Unwilling to witness that sickening spectacle any longer, I drew my longbow taut. With a sharp whistling sound, 3 arrows flew simultaneously. 3 arrows struck Chu Xi's back, sending him tumbling straight into the surging moat. Shen Ning, who had been clamoring to jump into the moat, clung desperately to the willow branches by the bank as Chu Xi dragged her toward the water. Fearing he might pull her under, her survival instinct kicked in. She began kicking wildly at Chu Xi's face without a second thought. Ning, what are you doing? I've been shot. Shen Ning paused, but as the willow branch buckled under their combined weight and slid downward an inch, panic instantly overwhelmed her. She screamed frantically. So, she was afraid of water. A faint smile touched my lips as I unleashed a trial upon their love. Arrows whistled through the air, severing another willow branch. The slippery stone bank made footholds treacherous, no matter how hard they strained. They couldn't climb back up. Their frantic struggle only caused them to slide another inch downward. Shen Ning immediately cried out in a choked voice. Your Highness, I'm afraid of water. Please don't pull me. I beg you. How could Chu Xi, who couldn't swim, abandon his last hope for survival? He clutched Shen Ning's legs even tighter. Ah Ning! Chu Xi's voice was laced with terror. Unable to break free, Shen Ning gritted her teeth and scanned her surroundings. Finding no one nearby, her eyes darkened. With a fierce effort, she delivered a flurry of kicks to Chu Xi's solar plexus, sending the stunned crown prince tumbling into the moat. Believing Chu Xi was surely dead, Shen Ning gazed at the surging river and silently wept. Who doesn't want to live? Your Highness must understand Ning. An Ning plotted tirelessly for you, sacrificing everything. Using you once was no great sin. In the next life, An Ning will serve you as ox or horse to repay your kindness. But when she scrambled ashore, believing herself saved, countless Eastern Palace guards surged toward her. The relief in Shen Ning's eyes gradually turned to terror and despair as she was pinned down on the cold gravel. Attempting to harm the crown prince, she was finished. And so was the Marquis's household. Having watched the spectacle to my heart's content, I stepped back without hesitation. As the guards charged toward me, ropes hanging from the city wall had already pulled me up onto the ramparts. The only one they could surround was the Marquis of Changning, who had rushed to the scene and was a master archer. Uncertain of the situation, he came with his bow to rescue his daughter, only to find himself trapped in the center of the guards' encirclement. The arrow embedded in the crown prince's back was identical to those in his quiver. Having heard from Shen Ning's maid that the moat held peril and the young lady's life hung in the balance, he rushed to her rescue with his quiver, heedless of all else. Now, the coincidence was so perfect it defied explanation. In my past life, he schemed for Chu Xi, sacrificing Shen Ning at the height of the Yu family's power to condemn my entire clan to eternal ruin. Yet he himself became Chu Xi's confidant, basking in unparalleled favor and splendor. This lifetime, I shall repay blood debt with blood. News of the crown prince's grave injury reached me as I returned to the prince's residence. The imperial physician examined the wound on Chu Xi's back, shaking his head like a rattle. Such viciousness! The arrow was coated in excrement, a poison beyond compare. Oh, a mere afterthought. No need for such astonishment. He who deserves eternal infamy must bear the stench. I never truly intended to kill Chu Xi. After all, I've fought my way to the very brink of absolute power. Only by stepping on his shoulders can I rise higher and see farther. Chu Xi's life was spared, but he deserved to be skinned alive. The filth's venom was potent, each day required layer upon layer of rotten flesh to be scraped away. Only when new muscle grew over the festering wounds could the agony of bone scraping cease. But when would the decayed flesh be entirely purged? The imperial physician couldn't give a definite timeline. Yet I knew it would take at least a month. Each time the flesh-scraping torture reached its midpoint, Chu Xi would pass out from the excruciating pain. Yet he would slowly awaken again amidst the excruciating bone-scraping agony. This cycle repeated, his screams more wretched than a slaughtered pig. I feigned profound concern, yet took in every detail of his torment. A mere interest payment, all he owed me. Seeing Chu Xi slip into a feverish delirium, still murmuring Xin Ning's name, my gaze turned icy. Strike while the iron is hot, take the life of your beloved. After shedding a few crocodile tears before the Empress, I secured permission to visit Xin Ning in the dungeon. There she sat, clad in plain white robes, her long hair loosely gathered, delicate and charming. Upon seeing me, she showed no surprise, even offering a faint, mocking smile. She glanced at me with contempt, as if surveying an insect. You schemed against me, didn't you? But so what? Your arrows were dipped in filth, while my father's quiver remained spotless. The evidence is incomplete. If he grits his teeth through the torture, we'll clear our names. Seeing my furrowed brow, she grew even more smug. She stepped closer, her voice dripping with triumph. Pity your false hopes. I'll be out soon enough. When we meet again, it will be a matter of life and death. Staring at that delicate, radiant face, I was filled with doubt and asked the question that had haunted me through both past and present lives. I've done you no wrong. Why do you hate me so? The Crown Prince's mansion cannot have only one woman. Even if I don't become Crown Princess, your status is still unattainable. Wouldn't being a secondary consort suffice? Why must you constantly seek my death? She paused, then looked at me as if I were a fool, suddenly laughing to herself. I came here through a novel to drain your fortune and take your place. Naturally, we must fight to the death. I sucked in a sharp breath. Even if it means death? She smiled. Of course. It's my mission. As long as Chu Xi never forgets me, I receive endless rewards. That's why I chose the third prince, so when Chu Xi loses his beloved and can do nothing, he'll keep me forever at the tip of his heart. What good are Chu Xi and the Eastern Palace to you? You've still lost utterly. I was utterly stunned. As if struck by lightning, her voice suddenly turned icy as she snarled. Once I marry the third prince and escape this dungeon, I'll crush your cherished Eastern Palace. You'll taste my humiliation and suffering tenfold. 100-fold. Not a single member of your family, who lord over me, will be spared. I exhaled heavily, my voice tinged with regret. Too bad you won't be leaving. Impossible. I smiled, lowering my voice to whisper in her ear. The third prince who came to save you won't be returning. I've already dispatched my secret guards to ambush and kill him on the way. Xin Ning's face drained of color. She lunged forward, grabbing my collar. You're lying. You couldn't possibly have defeated the system. A faint smile touched my lips. True. I can't defeat it. But I can kill you instead. The moment her eyes widened in shock, my hairpin pierced her throat. Blood stained her robes. Clutching her bleeding throat, Xin Ning slid to the ground, too stunned to utter a word. Yet the hatred churning in her eyes was crystal clear to me. You're right, insufficient evidence means the Marquis of Chongning will be released. He'll ally with the third prince and become the Crown Prince's greatest threat. But now, I plunged the hairpin into my own chest. Amid her terror, I smiled faintly. Assassination of the Crown Princess is unforgivable. You have no chance. My shining moonlight? I'll crush you into rice grains. Gritting her teeth in defiance, she finally drew her last breath. Only then did I cry out. Someone. Someone. Help! The force of my stab was so fierce. It missed my vital organs by a mere inch. Naturally, I collapsed unconscious as the guards flooded in. When I opened my eyes again, the Empress sat by my bedside, her face dark and foreboding. Before she could utter a word of reproach, I hastily pleaded my guilt. Your Imperial Majesty, I have slain the Crown Prince's beloved. My crime is unforgivable. I beg you to mete out my punishment. As the Empress's expression darkened, I drew a secret letter from Shenning to the third prince from my sleeve and handed it to her with proper decorum. Shenning had defected to the third prince. Not only had she stolen Chu Xi's treasure map to earn merit for him, but she also planned to deliver a fatal blow to Chu Xi when the third prince sought to marry her. Her malicious intent was plain for all to see. The ever-lofty Empress drew in a sharp breath before personally helping me back to my bed. For a criminal who sought to harm the Crown Princess, whether death comes sooner or later, or by whose hand, makes no difference. As long as I am here, no one else shall meddle with the Eastern Palace. Sure, you need only tend to your own health and that of the Crown Prince. Leave the rest to your mother. That very night, Shen Jiao and his daughter, the father and daughter who plotted to harm the Crown Prince and assassinate the Crown Princess, were executed in the dungeon. It was said the Empress Dowager herself knelt before His Majesty, appealing to his compassion and reason with the Eastern Palace's precarious position under attack from all sides. Until she secured the imperial decree, the Chongning Marquis' estate was confiscated, vanishing completely overnight. By the time Chu Xi received the news, 3 days had passed. His face, trampled under Shen Ning's boots, remained swollen like a pig's head, a sight too gruesome to behold. My pity was unhidden. Your Highness, with your divine features, now reduced to this state, how can you ever show yourself in public? As if fearing he wouldn't believe me, I thrust a mirror toward him. Your Highness, see for yourself. Has this servant lied? The reflection revealed Chu Xi's face utterly disfigured by swelling. His narrow, phoenix-like eyes were reduced to slits. His mouth was a particularly gruesome sight. Shen Ning's high-heeled wooden shoes had kicked flesh and bone outward, leaving it twisted like 2 sun-dried pork sausages. Even I felt sick looking at it, let alone Chu Xi, who prided himself on his looks. Furious, he smashed the mirror, his pig-intestine mouth mumbling incoherently. Insolent! Insolent! Utterly insolent! Then his eyes narrowed, and he gritted his teeth, demanding, "Have you captured the assassin?" I feigned distress and lowered my gaze. Your Highness, please focus on recuperating. Other matters can be addressed later. But he pressed relentlessly, demanding answers. Then don't blame me for rubbing salt in your wounds. Shen Ning's father, the Marquis of Chongning, was captured on the spot. The arrow lodged in your Highness's back matches one from his quiver. At this, Chu Xi fell silent. I pressed on without restraint. First, Shen Ning lured your Highness away from your lawful wife on your wedding night for a secret tryst. Then, she struck when you were most vulnerable, inflicting this grievous wound. Does the Marquis of Yongning wish the Crown Prince's household to be utterly destroyed? To wield the blade of emotion in murder, Miss Shinsan truly has no qualms about such deeds. Chu Xi's grip on the brocade quilt tightened. Yet he fixed me with a piercing stare. You need not sow discord here. Ning is pure-hearted, devoted to me with her whole being. She would never harm me. The situation forced her hand then. She was merely trying to escape and call for help for me, not deliberately harming me. For Shen Ning, he truly cherished her deeply. Had I not acted swiftly enough, killing Shen Ning again would not have been easy. My gaze shifted, and I adopted a sympathetic tone. Lamenting. One wonders whether her devotion was genuine or merely a ploy to extract your heart and lungs. The whole mansion, desperate to absolve themselves, exploited your unconscious state to align with the third prince. Others say, speak! Chu Xi's eyes nearly popped from fury. But I remained unhurried. Some say they witnessed your Highness embracing Miss Shinsan, forcing a kiss upon her lips, only to be shoved into the river by her in shame and anger. Truth be told, your Highness, Why kiss someone so publicly that it becomes common knowledge and a laughingstock? As for the rumors? Naturally, I paid for them. The disgrace fell upon Chu Xi, while the empress, who had set my rules, seethed with anger. The world only pitied me, Yu Sui, for my misfortune in love. Why wouldn't I enjoy it? The most terrifying thing was that the noble consort seized the opportunity to win over a group of court officials, allowing the third prince to gain favor with the emperor by presenting the treasure map of the previous dynasty. He even took the initiative to search for evidence for the marquis, striving to clear his name, which earned him considerable goodwill. Chu Xi's body trembled imperceptibly. He trusted the Chongning marquis's household, regarding them as mentors and friends, which is why he confided the treasure map matter to the marquis without reservation. Little did he know the marquis would use it as a lifeline, handing it over to the third prince, the very person he despised most. Betrayed by the marquis, abandoned by his lover, made a laughingstock by others. Chu Xi gritted his teeth in suppressed rage. Combined with my unmasked sympathy and pity, it made him spit out a mouthful of blood. I delivered the final blow without reservation. They were utterly despicable. So I helped your highness eliminate them. What? Overwhelmed by grief and shock, Chu Xi collapsed straight to the ground. I desperately wanted to seize the moment and slit his throat, just as I had done to Shen Ning. But I couldn't. I was already entrenched in the Eastern Palace, bound to him like grasshoppers on the same string. My only path forward was to ride the wind of his status as the Crown Prince's legitimate son, charging ahead without hesitation, soaring to the heavens. Chu Xi remained unconscious for an entire night. When he awoke and sought to vent his fury on me, I had already summoned the Empress. The two conversed privately all morning. As the Empress departed, she admonished me. The Crown Prince understands you. He knows your painstaking intentions and will not blame you. Have no fear. I feigned utter terror, though inwardly I rolled my eyes in disgust. Chu Xi endured humiliation solely to leverage my family's power for his own eternal ambitions. He holds grudges like a hawk. He won't forgive me. And I, locked in a life-or-death struggle with him, don't need his forgiveness. When I saw Chu Xi again, he had already stowed away the hatred in his eyes, just as he had in my past life. He even forced a smile and took my hand. This matter is not your fault. I was bewitched at the time, casting the reputation of the Eastern Palace to the winds. Shure's devotion to me and the Eastern Palace is a blessing for both. I smiled without speaking, lifting the medicine bowl to blow on it for Chu Xi. As he wove his lies, I swiftly brought it to his lips. Your Highness must be well. The Eastern Palace must be well, only then can Shure be well. I was reminding Chu Xi that now, he, I, and the Eastern Palace were one. However much he might hate me, he must endure again and again, for the Eastern Palace's future. For his own grand ambitions. Grasping my hand, his eyebrow twitched. You have done enough for me. This matter, I failed to consider it fully. I have wronged you. But is it not too hasty to select a secondary consort and concubines for me just now? So the Empress Dowager had already relayed my request to Chu Xi. My hand stiffened as I replied with a pained expression. There's no need for such haste. But your Highness knows the Eastern Palace faces enemies on all sides and suffers from a tarnished reputation. Without rallying more allies, how can we outmaneuver the third prince? The unspoken implication was clear, cleaning up the mess from your wedding night debacle. Chu Xi's lips twitched. You've sacrificed so much. For me. Sacrificed for him? I'm merely strengthening my own ranks. Rather than wait for Chu Xi to lure people into his court, I'd rather secure several like-minded women early to build our cause together. The Empress Dowager's confidant, the general's niece, and the Grand Tutor's sister. Each possesses both virtue and talent, not one falls short of Shen Ning. Shen Ning was right. What could be more unforgettable than a lost moonlight? Though that person is dead, they remain an eternal scar upon Chu Si's chest. And I am the executioner who plunged the dagger. As long as I remain by his side, he will never forget that his moonlight died by my hand. The wound festers slowly, seeping deep into the marrow until it becomes an agony that cannot be shaken. Day after day, this torment will eventually become his reason to raise his blade against me. But people are complex. They yearn for what they cannot have. Yet they always crave the new and tire of the old. When I personally presented the names of several beauties to the Empress, her expression was complicated. These ladies are beyond reproach in both lineage and beauty. But I feigned restraint, forcing a faint smile. Your humble servant cares not for personal favor or status. The Eastern Palace faces threats on all sides. Now is precisely when we need strong allies. Whether it be the Empress Dowager or the Grand Tutor, as long as it benefits the Eastern Palace and His Highness, this son shall harbor no grievances. Seeing this, the Empress clasped my hand with a pang of pity and patted it gently. In the past, this palace held too many prejudices against Shuer. It was this mother's fault. Shuer is dignified, virtuous, and wise. She understands the greater good. She is a blessing to ACI and to the Eastern Palace. The Empress, who had once left me standing at the gates of Weiyang Palace to teach me discipline in my previous life, now seemed quite satisfied with me in this one. When the three noble ladies entered the palace, she even deliberately cautioned them, warning them not to upset me. What she didn't know was that these three had already secretly contacted me. Only after receiving their confirmation did I deliver the list to the Empress. Even after entering the Eastern Palace, they showed no gratitude. At first, Chu Xi maintained his dignity, refusing to visit other courtyards. Mindful of the Empress's admonition, he treated me with extra consideration. Holding my hand, he declared solemnly, "Our wedding has only just passed. If I were to favor others, would that not disgrace Shuer and break her heart? I will not go. I will only accompany Shuer." Yet when he passed the rear garden, beneath the peach trees shedding blossoms in a flurry, he encountered that ethereal figure, like a celestial maiden, and lost himself. That night, he went to the courtyard of Zhao Yuni, the consort Zhao, bestowed upon him by the Empress Dowager. I sat by lamplight, flipping through a book chronicling strange tales and anecdotes, while the maid grumbled discontentedly. "Men's words are truly untrustworthy. But Your Highness, the prince has been lured away. How can you sit here so calmly? Silly girl. She simply doesn't understand. That disgusting, hypocritical man, he washes 3 times after every night with her. If not for the child, I'd wish he never set foot in my courtyard again." The next day, when Chu Xi accompanied me to the palace to pay respects to the Empress, he rubbed his nose sheepishly. "Last night, I drank too much. Shuer, please don't be angry." I obediently shook my head. "All the sisters in the Eastern Palace belong to Your Highness. Like me, they yearn for Your Highness's favor. As Crown Princess, I should possess the magnanimity to tolerate others." Chu Xi exhaled a heavy sigh of relief. Within days, he took up residence with consort Li Zhuyun, the peerless beauty with peach blossom features, niece of a general. Seeing I still showed no anger, he simply spread his favors evenly, bestowing grace upon Su Qingqing, whose voice was as sweet as a nightingale's song. Each time he favored one, he would come to observe my expression. Yet not only did I not grieve as I had in my past life, I even bestowed generous gifts upon my sisters, allowing them to enter the inner courtyards. Chu Xi, ultimately beyond reproach, remembered the Empress Dowager's instructions and would occasionally visit my quarters to expand the Eastern Palace's lineage. 3 months passed, yet my belly showed no sign of life. Chu Xi remained unhurried, but my sisters grew frantic. "Did you catch a chill at the frontier, sister?" Shall I discreetly ask the Empress Dowager to summon master gynecologists? Could it be the crown prince is inadequate? Honestly, last night he couldn't even last half an incense stick. I fear he's lacking in both ways. This is the guanine statue for conception my mother gave me. Hang it above your bed. Sister, give birth to the first imperial grandson soon. So Chu Xi can. She mimed, slitting her throat. To our collective shock, she quickly stuck out her tongue in apology. I'll control myself from now on. Won't let my thoughts show on my face. I sighed. Having your help is a blessing for you, Sue. But the most important thing is to protect myself first. After all, in my past life, to isolate the Yu family, Chu Xi made sure each of them died by my hand at the height of their favor. The three shook their heads repeatedly. Sister, rest assured. I didn't use the poison tea he gave me. I replaced the qi-draining hairpin. Even the venomous snake that slithered into the courtyard was crushed by my hand. His old tricks won't work now. After all, I've lived this life twice. The women I've carefully chosen, talented, ambitious, from distinguished families, with vision. Why should they fight to the death in the harem just for a night of favor? We too shall vie for a place in the imperial court. Without the Marquis of Chongning's aid, can we truly stand against the third prince? Wrong. We possess the strength to fight our own battle. On the day the Emperor and Empress led their entourage on a grand autumn hunt to the capital's outskirts, my condition was conveniently diagnosed. The Empress rejoiced beyond measure, and the Emperor was overjoyed. Not only was I excused from accompanying them, but Chu Xi was left behind to keep me company. The coveted role of escorting the Emperor fell to the third prince, who had just recovered the imperial treasures from the previous dynasty. Standing tall on his horse behind His Majesty, surrounded by civil and military officials, he radiated unparalleled vigor and spirit. Chu Xi seethed with jealousy, yet still held my hand and comforted me. You've gone to great lengths for me. I shall treat you well. I smiled, nearly shedding tears. I'd heard those words in my past life, words ultimately verified by the sacrifice of 9 clans. Opening my mouth required no effort. He could say it, and so could I. For your highness, this servant is willing to sacrifice everything. I lied. Heaven sought retribution. So that very night, it sent me a trial. As night fell, I sat with the other princesses of the Eastern Palace, gathered around listening to storytellers. In my heart, I hoped the 5th prince would fall from grace and the 3rd prince would fall under the emperor's suspicion. So all the benefits would come to the Eastern Palace. With Chu Xi's position secure, we would be one step closer to holding the reins of power. But suddenly, guards burst in with thunderous news. A crisis! His Highness was attacked by assassins on his way to the Eastern Palace. A commoner girl saved him, but she's gravely wounded and being brought here now. By the time we reached the front courtyard, Chu Xi rushed in, clutching a woman covered in blood. Summon the imperial physician. Save her! As Chu Xi passed me, clutching the frail girl, she deliberately arched an eyebrow and smiled. It sent an unsettling chill through me. My heart froze. Inch by inch. Who was she? Why would she shield the prince from a blade? The guard's report left me speechless. Your Highness, I've investigated. The woman was originally a washerwoman from the south of the city. After falling into the river a few days ago, she fell gravely ill. Once recovered, she developed a fear of water and moved directly to the East Street. She happened to be selling baked cakes on the path your Highness must take to return to the palace. Today's incident was sudden. I hadn't even had time to respond to the assassins closing in from all sides when she stepped straight in front of your Highness and took the blade for you. Her personality changed drastically after the drowning. How strikingly similar to Shen Ning. Both transformed beyond recognition after falling into the water. Yet both possessed extraordinary ingenuity. continually distinguishing themselves before others, ultimately becoming magnificent jewels in this backward era. So, it seems a time-traveling woman can make countless comebacks. I felt as if facing a formidable enemy. Before the woman named Afu regained consciousness, Chu Xiai was summoned to the palace. His Majesty was attacked at the hunting grounds, but the third prince blocked the arrow, leaving him unscathed. The third prince, however, suffered severe injuries and remains unconscious. The captured assassin confessed it was the fifth prince who ordered the attack. He was also behind the attempt on the crown prince. The entire court was shaken. The sinister fifth prince was thrown into the imperial dungeon, becoming a prisoner never to see daylight. Simultaneously, hidden weapons were discovered in his residence. As if by coincidence, every technique was designed to take the fifth prince's life. Chu Xiai smiled. Third brother never understood the meaning of boiling oil over a raging fire. Now that fifth brother has fallen, he, so conspicuous, will be the first to fall out of father's favor. They say the Eastern Palace is a difficult place to be, but it's always the princes who struggle. Sighing, he took my hand. Shuer's scheme was quite clever, but alas, it failed to harm me and instead wounded the innocent Afu. She has done me a favor, do not trouble her. My heart belongs to you, know this well. No sooner had he spoken than a servant announced Afu had regained consciousness. Without even changing his clothes, Chu Xiai rushed to Afu's courtyard. Thankfully he moved swiftly, otherwise I'd have spat in his face amid his bitter remarks. Unlike Xin Ning's flamboyance, this girl was timid, huddled under the quilt, her eyes filled with terror. Only when Chu Xiai asked if she wanted any reward did her dark eyes suddenly brighten. She tilted her face up in confusion and asked, "Really? Anything at all? Would it be too much to ask for a bakery?" Her innocence and simplicity made Chu Xiai laugh heartily. "As many as you want. I'll give them to you. You don't know it, but you're my lucky star." The three behind him sucked in a sharp breath. This was clearly a meticulously planned scheme of ours. Yet it ended up being Afu's good fortune. Even the fifth prince's courtyard full of weapons, which father and brother had men discreetly move from the western mountains into his secret chamber, took untold effort. Even this assassination attempt, which only grazed the skin, required rehearsing 1,000 times over. Chu Xiai understood. He couldn't repay such immense kindness, so he pretended to be blind and deaf. My hand tightened, but Afu spoke with innocent wonder. Can I go home now?" Chu Xi's smile froze. "Is it not suitable here?" The young girl shook her head. "I have my own home. Naturally, I must return to it." It would have been one thing not to mention her ramshackle thatched cottage. But the moment she spoke of that home, battered by wind and rain, intense pity flashed in Chu Xi's eyes. "A home like that? You needn't return. You may stay in my Eastern Palace as long as you wish." But the girl refused. Her face twisted with sorrow as she looked at me pitifully. "The crown princess is with child. You should not keep other women in your home. Her Majesty will surely be saddened." Then she turned to me. "Your Majesty, may I go home?" Of course I couldn't. She was still running a high fever. And as the Eastern Palace's benefactor, how could I send her away to become the subject of gossip? She remained in the Eastern Palace openly. And it was I who personally gave her permission. Chu Xiai was already swamped with trivial matters deliberately assigned by the emperor. Yet he still made time to return to the mansion each day to accompany Afu. He scarcely spared a moment for me or my swelling belly. The ladies in the inner quarters seethed with resentment, cursing that woman as a born seductress. She couldn't write, so she drew a centipede, and His Highness set aside his pressing affairs to teach her calligraphy. She'd never seen a theatrical performance, so His Highness brought in a troupe just for her. But it didn't stop there. She merely mentioned her mother's Jiangnan cuisine, and His Highness dispatched men to Jiangnan to find a chef. What's most infuriating is that whenever she sees us, her eyes brim with pity. She practically points at us and says, "How pitiful, deprived of favor. Left alone in their chambers. That damn green tea. That wretched woman." I couldn't help but chuckle, and this venom came straight from Shining's own mouth. Favors? Fine. If she doesn't cause trouble, why not let her have them? After all, none of you want to serve him anyway. True enough. Since I stopped speaking in that strained voice, my throat's been so much better these past few days. Exactly. And since I stopped swaying my hips when I walk, my back doesn't hurt anymore. You know what? Not having to wait on Chusi has actually let me read a few more books. Without vying for favor, they just cling to their books and lounge around my courtyard all day, until the imperial city erupted in chaos. The day after the third prince awoke, floods ravaged the Jiangnan region. But out of the chaos emerged a divine stele, inscribed with the words, "Will is heaven's mandate." And the third prince's name was Chu Yi. Rumors spread like wildfire. They claimed Chu Xi was unworthy of his position, mediocre and incompetent, not the rightful heir to the throne. Truthfully, I agreed with them if I weren't the crown prince's consort. They even compiled a list of Chu Xi's countless absurd deeds, circulating illustrated pamphlets everywhere. Chu Xi was furious. He cursed us for our cunning scheme, which had tarnished his reputation and left an indelible stain. When he stormed into his study, raging and forbidding anyone to approach, only Afu dared enter, bearing pastries and osmanthus wine. After a night of passion, she should have come to boast of her triumph. Yet, like Shining in a past life, she leapt into the river. When I arrived, Chu Xi's teacup shattered at my feet. "How dare you poison me under my very nose? I've told you countless times, Afu is merely my savior. My little sister. Why must you destroy her?" Chu Xi's face flushed with fury as he pointed his finger at my nose and hurled curses. The maids who administered the poison had been beaten to a pulp and tossed into the mass grave. No witnesses remained. My hand clenched and unclenched beneath my sleeve. "Your Highness doesn't believe me. I truly wish to kill you." Clang. "Your Highness, please forgive me." Afu awoke. Her sudden appearance shattered the tense standoff. Tears streamed down her face like beads from a broken string. It was Afu's fault. Afu shouldn't have lingered in the crown prince's residence, causing your Highness to misunderstand. Now that it has come to this, Afu blames no one. I only beg your Highness to let me leave. I wish to retreat to a temple outside the capital for the rest of my life, praying daily for your Highness and her Majesty. As she spoke, a shatteringly bitter smile pulled at her lips. To have witnessed and enjoyed the splendor and luxury within the crown prince's residence, things Afu could never have known in a lifetime, I am content. Her words pierced Chu Xi's heart like a dagger, clutching her tightly to his chest. His voice grew soft as a whisper. "Since you are mine, how could I bear to let you go? If you cherish the splendor of the Eastern Palace, then stay here forever by my side." Afu threw herself into Chu Xi's embrace. Her face, innocent and harmless, showed not a trace of pride or secret joy, as if that fleeting smile in his arms that night had been nothing but my own illusion. Stripped of my stewardship duties by the crown prince, I retreated to my quarters to rest and nurture my pregnancy. Zhu Yun, Qing Qing, and Yuni gathered around me, their faces etched with deep concern. She played the part so convincingly, as if she truly had been set up. No wonder Chu Xi believed her. I nearly did too. Why not give it a try? At the banquet celebrating the third prince's victory, I used my pregnancy as leverage and brought all the sisters from the Eastern Palace into the palace grounds. Qing Kairen had never been inside the palace before. "So Zhao Liang Yuan, please look after her." As soon as I finished speaking, Qing Kairen, who had been cowering in the corner, timidly glanced at me before obediently lowering her eyes and replying, "Yes." Yuni exchanged a glance with me, giving me a look that said, "Watch the show." I breathed a sigh of relief. I accompanied Chu Si, who still harbored resentment toward me. The night breeze blew gently. He brushed aside my heavy belly and strode ahead at a brisk pace. Even though I quickened my steps to catch up, I still fell behind, gasping for breath. Suddenly, it all felt so pointless. Perhaps it would be better to just let him die sooner. But when I saw His Majesty, the ruler above all others, that anger dissipated. After all, enduring him wasn't for favor or affection, but solely to gain a higher vantage point. If he was an eyesore, I could simply avoid him. I remained seated beside Chu Si, offering not a single word or gesture throughout. Only after His Majesty departed did the Empress summon Chu Si and me to Weiyang Palace. For the sake of some lowly concubine, the crown prince treats his crown princess with such neglect? Never mind that she's carrying your child and enduring the hardships of pregnancy, even if she's scheming and plotting for your benefit. She shouldn't be treated with such cold indifference. In the end, it's only women who truly feel for other women. Chu Si opened his mouth but said nothing. Yet as he stepped out of the gates of Weiyang Palace, he shot me a glance. Why bother? Mother will never scold me daily over your moods. After all, I am her son. My hand clenched tightly beneath my sleeve, forcing myself to refrain from slapping his face. Your Highness, you underestimate me. A mere woman of the inner quarters, I'm not so incompetent as to complain to Mother. Oh no! Oh no! Consort Ching and Consort Zhao have both fallen into the water. The palace attendants cried out. Chu Si's amused smile now turned toward me. Indeed, Your Highness. The crown princess's tactics are truly masterful. Your Highness. She knew. She knew exactly what I intended to do. Before I could leap into the water, she curved her lips into a smile and said to me, "You can swim, but I cannot. Guess who they'll believe?" Then, she jumped into the water before I could. Had I not reacted swiftly, diving in myself the moment the palace attendants appeared and grabbing hold of her, I'd have been in a world of trouble. Soaked to the bone, she huddled shivering beneath her cloak, terror etched in her eyes. Ching Ching patted Yuni's back reassuringly before leading her away to change clothes. Zhu Yun approached me and whispered. She hadn't interacted with anyone, yet every step she took seemed precisely timed, as if she knew exactly what would happen next. Even the palace routes were familiar to her. My suspicions were confirmed. I addressed Zhu Yun solemnly, enunciating each word. She is a time traveler. Does she want my sister dead too? I sucked in a sharp breath. I truly have no idea. Zhu Yun shed her usual docility, her voice sharp and ruthless. I'll kill her myself. The crown prince's terrified expression, he's likely taken a liking to her again. The gentle Ching Ching disagreed. Your own death matters little. But what of the dozens of innocent people in that household? My situation is different. My uncle has just performed a great service. Chu Si wouldn't dare touch me. I'll poison her instead. But the ever-stubborn Yuni refused. You forget I'm the Empress Dowager's woman. Even if this fails, with Her Majesty backing me, I'll only be locked away for a few years. Once my sister's wish is fulfilled, she'll release me. Letting her wreak havoc, who knows how many innocent lives she'll drag into this. Looking at those eager faces, a wave of bitterness and emotion washed over me. They say women of the harem are shallow and lacking ambition. They surely don't know that within us burns heroic loyalty, the responsibility of pillars of society, and aspirations and foresight that rival any man's. How sincere they are. How deeply moving. I exhaled deeply, blinking away the stinging in my eyes. Since she's here, we'll make her stay. I refuse to believe a mere time traveler could outmaneuver 4 noble daughters. Listen carefully, no one moves without my command. If any of you are injured, Who will teach my children later? Qingqing is meticulous. Yuni possesses extraordinary talent. And Zhu Yun is like a female Zhuge Liang. If any of you were to fall in the inner courtyard, it would truly be like ripping out my heart. We agreed to pursue great ambitions together. Not a single one of you can be missing. Even if no one could prove it was Consort Zhao who pushed Consort Qing. And Consort Qing herself, biting her lip, shook her head pitifully without uttering a word. Chu Xi was heartbroken, his resentment toward me deepening. The Empress, however, saw through his hatred. Tapping her tea bowl, she admonished him. The stone tablet washed ashore by the southern floods. No sooner had the celebratory banquet ended than a secret letter reached your father's desk, accusing the third prince of reckless endangerment and treating lives as straw. Your father flew into a terrible rage before finally praising you for your improved diligence and restraint. But that secret letter, could they have been obtained merely by opening one's mouth? Do you have any idea how much effort the Yu family expended behind the scenes? The Empress set down her teacup and rose slowly. Those who aspire to great deeds must cast their vision far into the future. Never mind that she is not dead, even if she were. What difference would it make? A worthless orphan girl, how could she be compared to the Crown Princess? Compared to the Crown Princess's tireless dedication, these mere playthings are insignificant. The Crown Prince had no words. Yet he vented all his rage and hatred upon me. He moved into Consort Cheng's quarters, ignoring me completely. As if good things cost nothing, he moved one after another into Consort Cheng's courtyard. He took her sightseeing, showering her with unparalleled companionship and care. Even when he happened to cross paths with me, he deliberately lifted me up in his arms, refusing to give me a single glance as he brushed past. As for the other three sisters in the courtyard, today this one's courtyard was on fire. Tomorrow that one faced disaster. Not a single day passed without trouble. Only Afyu's courtyard was guarded like a fortress, untouched by any threat. He believed this was his favor, his love. Even Afyu boasted with pride. I only want his love. It's different from the power and status you all crave. She was so naive. An emperor's affection is shallow, unable to withstand even the slightest test. The third prince suddenly faced condemnation and suppression from the entire court. Even the fifth prince's death in the dungeon was traced back to his handiwork. The emperor's suspicion ran deep, and he imprisoned the third prince in the prince's residence almost without hesitation. The third prince, crushed by overwhelming pressure and stripped of any chance to recover, recklessly launched a palace coup on New Year's Eve. Though His Majesty had prepared defenses, momentary chaos and casualties were unavoidable. As sharp arrows pierced the banquet tables, Chu Xi retreated unhesitatingly toward the secure palace halls, shielded by his guards. To dispel the emperor's lingering doubts, he feigned utter incompetence and panic, nearly wetting himself. Yet Afyu, whose fingers were intertwined with his, stumbled and fell, her cumbersome robes tripping her. As the rebels stormed in, a hail of arrows rained down upon Chu Xi. He barely glanced at the figure on the ground before issuing his command without hesitation. Protect me! Retreat! Burning bridges. Discarding the donkey after the millstone was turned, Chu Xi remained as ruthless as ever. Exposed. Afyu was struck in the back by an arrow. With a cry of defiance, she shouted at Chu Xi, "Your Highness, save me!" But all she saw was his rapidly receding back, and the response that never came. Tears rolled down Afyu's cheeks in despair. "Your Highness, there's still Afyu." Seeing Afyu facing imminent danger, I finally couldn't bear it. Form the formation. Save her. Sheltered by the impenetrable dungeon formation, I dragged Afyu to her feet despite my 8-month pregnancy. The moment she saw me, her lips curled in a pout as tears streamed down her face. The system took my points and abandoned me. And you're the one saving me? Wah. It hurts so much. I almost died. I'm just a struggling college student working a winter break job, Why must I endure arrow after arrow? That damned male lead. I risked my life to save him. Yet he fled as fast as he could. Where's his love? So fragile? Think about all the items I bought for him with my points. The fifth prince's death. The third prince's secret. How to win his majesty's favor? How could he deceive me out of all my points and suddenly stop loving me? Wah! Thank goodness you're here. Watching her sob harder and harder. I couldn't help but snap. Cry any louder and I'm leaving you behind. She pouted her lips and forced back her sobs. Her watery doe eyes brimmed with obedience. No wonder Chusi couldn't get enough of her. If she were mine, I'd adore her too. I'm not abandoning you. Stop crying. Better to see his true colors now than be skinned and dismembered after he's milked me dry. Afu stiffened. You knew all along? I've already died once. Of course I knew. After narrowly escaping danger and returning to the Eastern Palace, the insincere Chusi immediately clasped my hand with feigned concern. Sure. Are you all right? I've been frantic with worry. Not seeing you anywhere. He looked genuinely distressed, examining every inch of me before finally pressing his hand repeatedly against my belly. But when those arrows flew toward me as if guided by eyes, I saw a fleeting flash of secret delight in his gaze. So he'd already planned to burn his bridges and eliminate me too. This whole time. I gently touched the baby in my womb and shook my head with a smile. As long as your highness is safe, the entire Eastern Palace is at ease. He curved his lips, though I couldn't tell if it was disappointment or deep disappointment. He didn't even ask about Afu's injuries. I glanced unobtrusively at Afu, who was rolling her eyes. She mouthed the words. What a dog! The third prince's faction was swiftly eradicated with thunderous force. Under relentless pressure from civil and military officials, the third prince himself was granted poisoned wine and strangled to death within the palace depths. From then on, Chu Xiai and the Eastern Palace stood unshakable, free from all threats. He began openly expanding his harem, securing all useful factions through female connections. Afu couldn't bear to watch, fuming. If I'd known he could love anyone, I never would have loved him. All that sincerity and acting I poured into him fed to the dogs. After muttering her grievances, she snuggled close to me. Sis, you knew I was a time traveler. You knew he'd use my hands to kill those 3 women once he seized power. Then turn against you. Why didn't you kill me? The one I ever sought to kill was never the time traveler. Sighing, I replied, when Miss Shinsan defied worldly conventions, taking to the streets to advocate gender equality, I rode 1,000 miles back to the capital. My heart brimmed with hope that she might be a refreshing current in this mundane world, a glimmer of dawn before the break of day, capable of securing equality and freedom for all women under heaven. I even retrieved my father's token, waiting to lend her my strength when her time came. But when I arrived before her, dust-covered and weary, she glanced at me with disdain and said, Nothing special. Without your family's name, you'd be no match for me. You think you can lead soldiers into battle for glory? You're delusional. She dismissed me entirely because of one man, without ever truly knowing me. Rumors spread behind her back, claiming I consorted with men in the army, that I had long since disgraced myself and was unworthy of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. I thought her advocacy for gender equality would be a declaration enabling me to wage war openly and honorably. But it turned out to be a blade wrapped in sugar, meant to take my life. As for Chu Xiai, he wanted the Yu family's support yet wouldn't let me hold real power. Using a time traveler's system to suppress me would further his grand ambitions. So naturally, he welcomed it. Afu understood instantly. That dog of a man, I won't cozy up to him. I hurriedly interceded. No. You must cozy up to him. If you don't, someone else will, and we'll be left at a disadvantage. For our sake, you must. Afu, you're different from Xin Ning. I've seen you plead for palace maids and slip snacks to the old matrons. You're warm-hearted and kind, willing to fight for all women. She scratched her head sheepishly. We working stiffs believe in equality, just love sharing good food. Even if you're manipulating me. Sister saved my life. If you tell me to cozy up, I'll cozy up. Chu Xi continued his charade of affection with me, with the imperial uncle clearing his path, the grand tutor winning over powerful ministers, and his father and brother's glorious military achievements adding to his prestige. His rise was smooth sailing. Finally, when my second child turned 3, the emperor fell gravely ill, and the crown prince assumed regency. Consort Zhao cradled her 5-year-old daughter. Consort Wang held her 6-year-old son, both seated below me, watching Afu leap about with envious expressions. After all these years, she remains as youthful as a girl. Indeed, by steadfastly refusing to bear the scoundrel's children, she secured the top seat of favor in the harem. Afu was full of tricks, never showing the slightest deference to Chu Xi simply because he was crown prince. The more she acted this way, the more Chu Xi couldn't get enough of her. He said, Afu's sincerity toward me is free of ulterior motives. I wish to cherish her more. You mustn't nitpick with her like a child. But what he didn't know was that Afu was constantly using her points to exchange for his affection. So much so that upon ascending the throne, Chu Xi immediately elevated Afu to consort Shu, showering her with favor beyond measure, until a neighboring kingdom presented a maiden bearing Shening's exact likeness, instantly capturing Chu Xi's undivided attention. Their intentions were blatantly obvious. Yet Chu Xi remained stubbornly obstinate. He forgot the past, forgot the neighboring kingdom's predatory gaze, and forgot Afu's daily companionship. Disregarding the pleas of the court and the harem, he insisted on appointing her as consortly. Once, when Afu cried and made a scene before him, he scolded her and banished her back to the palace, confining her to her quarters. I went to the hall of mental cultivation to fulfill my duty of counsel. He, embracing his beloved, knocked over my tea set with a kick. I am merely making amends for past regrets. It is not your place to lecture me. Do not forget whose realm this truly is. After too many days of ease, he forgot how this realm was won. How fitting, the reckoning is at hand. Confined within Weiyang Palace, several elders from the Eastern Palace came to see me. Autumn winds swept fallen leaves, their chill seeping through my sleeves. After a long moment, I sighed while cradling the child in my arms. The sky is about to change. Return to your homes and pack your belongings. They understood instantly. The following year, the triumphant Chu Xi sailed south with Consort Li, who had never seen the beauty of Jiangnan, only to face an assassination attempt by remnants of the Third Prince's faction. He narrowly escaped death but was left bedridden and weak. I seized the opportunity to confine the traitorous Consort Li to Yonghe Palace. Yet she secretly sent word to her maternal clan, plotting to destroy the great Chu dynasty while Chu Xi lay gravely ill. I presented the letter to the Empress Dowager. With His Majesty gravely ill, I dared not disturb him with this matter. I sought Mother's decision. The Empress Dowager approved of my discretion. A cup of poisoned wine sent Consort Li back to her homeland. That very night, Afu inadvertently revealed the news to Chu Xi. Ignoring his severe illness, he stormed into the Empress Dowager's shrine and shouted, I am a living man, not a puppet in your hands. Have you not manipulated me for far too long? Do I not even possess the right to choose someone I love? Had I known bearing your son would be this exhausting, I should never have been born from your womb. Even the wise and virtuous imperial consort Hui knew to protect her child until her dying breath. Unlike you, cold-hearted and ruthless, always prioritizing power and status above all else. The Empress Dowager trembled with rage, raising her hand to slap him. I was wrong. Among all the sons of the late emperor, why did I single you out, born from my womb, to prop up a worthless fool? You don't even hold a candle to Yu Sui Shu. All these years, it was she who foresaw every crisis, sacrificed everything for the empire's future, and endured every injustice. If you held her in such high regard, why not make her your daughter? The two quarreled fiercely, hurling bitter words at each other before swearing never to meet again. Thus, when Chu Xi coughed up blood and fainted, the Empress Dowager no longer cared. The one who spent the most time with him was Consort Shu. Ah Fu. My son is 15 now and can handle affairs independently in the hall of cultivating the heart. He was gentle and courteous. Though not the ideal emperor, he heeded his minister's counsel in all matters. Even when faced with difficult decisions, he would come to my palace in Weiyang to seek my advice. Though I was the empress, I had effectively taken control of half the court. The ministers favored the crown prince's humility and temperance. While he might not achieve great deeds, he certainly caused none. They ceased to trouble Chu Xi, consulting only the crown prince on all matters. Eventually, Chu Xi, sensing his gradual marginalization, came to see me, but I was busy teaching my daughter the strategies of governance and did not receive him. Angrily, he went to the Consort Xian's palace. Consort Xian was busy establishing a women's academy. Seeing his haggard appearance, she asked with a smile she couldn't quite suppress. Your Majesty, are you asking me to deal with the Empress? You must know, Your Majesty, that I entered the Eastern Palace to be your blade. Chu Xi was stunned. He didn't know that Yin Yi's beloved was an obscure scholar. Though scorned by the Grand Tutor for his lowly origins, the young man studied with relentless diligence, striving to excel in the imperial examinations and secure a glorious future for her. But when Chu Xi and Chen Ning met in secret, the scholar stumbled upon them. Like a fallen leaf, he was silently strangled to death in a dark alley. That day, the scholar used money earned from copying texts to buy Yinyi a plain hairpin. No fancy design, no jewels adorning it, just a stark silver pin. She wore it to this day. She would often lean lazily against my chest, tears falling. It's all my fault. I knew the wind was fierce that day. Yet I only sent gloves to protect her hands. I didn't keep her within the mansion. Little did I know that a mere gust of wind would truly scatter us apart. Sister Shuer, what should I do? I'm starting to forget his face. The scholar became a scar on Yun Yi's heart. She could never love another in this lifetime, her sole desire being to seek justice for that foolish scholar. In that case, Your Majesty, how do you think this humble servant should proceed? Chu Xi scrambled and crawled his way to Xinfu Palace. The imperial consort was poring over the tax ledgers submitted by the Ministry of Revenue. Upon hearing Chu Xi's accusation that both the Empress and Consort Xian sought to murder him, the imperial consort stiffened. Then, covering her mouth with a handkerchief, she burst into laughter. Has His Majesty lost his mind? Chu Xi shouted, ordering the consort to summon the Grand General to rescue the Emperor. When the consort had laughed her fill, her expression turned cold. What right do you have to ask my uncle for help? Have you truly forgotten what you did to bring down the fourth prince? It was Chu Xi who placed the youngest sister, whom the Wang family cherished, into the fourth prince's bed. It was Chu Xi who caused the emperor's most beloved younger brother to be banished to the frigid north in the emperor's fury. Within half a year, he succumbed to depression and illness, passing away. That sister was raised in my arms. The fourth prince was like the moon in my heart, pure and flawless. Yet you killed them both. I've longed to devour your flesh and drink your blood. Waiting this long has only tormented me. Chu Xi collapsed to the ground, forced to drink a bowl of mind-altering potion by the imperial consort. After poisoning you for so many years, we finally took half your life during the southern tour. How long we've waited! You all. Oh my! Your Majesty! How did you fall? Come, let the servant help you back to rest. The consort Shu arrived with exaggerated scorn, then dragged Chu Xi away without a word. Chu Xi screamed all the way, vowing to slaughter every concubine and child in the palace to vent his rage. Thus the world knew, His Majesty had gone utterly mad from Consort Li's poison. The crown prince seized control of the court as he'd wished, while Chu Xi was locked away in Guanju Palace, never to emerge. The consort Shu coaxed him to drink bowl after bowl of restorative medicine until his limbs went numb, leaving him bedridden and utterly immobile. Bedsores slowly spread across his body, festering until maggots bred within them, emitting a foul stench. In agony, he gazed pleadingly at the consort Shu he loved most, watching her engage in nightly trysts with young, vigorous eunuchs. Yet he could only sob, unable even to utter curses. "Don't look at me like that. If you men can have 3 wives and 4 concubines, I should certainly have countless male favorites too. No way. No way. You want me to remain pure for you? I have money, power, and leisure. I don't want 8-pack abs or long legs, I want you." My sisters manage the economy, politics, military, and women's education. I'm different, my only task is to torment you. You faithless man. To death. Chu Xi's eyes widened, and someone force-fed him a bowl of scalding hot soup. He writhed in agony, muscles spasming, yet Afu remained unmoved. His Majesty has a high fever. Give him a cold bath tonight. Snow swirled down as Chu Xi was submerged in icy slush. He seemed to recall his past life, remembering how good Yu Shu had been to him. A tear fell. Sure. I sighed. Lock him away even farther. I don't want to hear a single sound from him. Very well. Then send him to the farthest palace. Chu Xi's voice froze, the spark of hope extinguished in his eyes. I whispered into his ear. The grudge from our past life is one of mortal enmity. I won't let you die, I'll make your remaining years worse than death. Chained to the bed, subjected to 30 years of torment. Chu Xi breathed his last, his body reduced to skin and bones. My son, the new emperor, ascended the throne but reigned for only 5 years. Citing insufficient strength despite his resolve, he abdicated in favor of his younger sister. Though the entire court was shaken, with the protection of civil and military officials and the staunch support of the Empress Dowager and the consorts, it did not cause too great a stir. My daughter received my personal instruction in statecraft. The noble consort taught her aristocratic etiquette. The virtuous consort instructed her in pharmacology, and the graceful consort recounted every detail of the great unity's golden age before her. She studied diligently, rising early and retiring late, determined to become an empress for the ages, usher in an era of eternal peace, and secure freedom and equality for women. Seeing her skill and foresight, and knowing she had found countless allies in the Women's Academy, I and several other consorts felt reassured. We quietly set out to travel the 5 lakes and 4 seas, to see a wider world and seek more possibilities. Until one night, when the consort of virtue, now in her 30s, suddenly turned white-haired. She tugged at our sleeves, gazing at the sun slowly setting over the desolate Gobi Desert to the northwest. A single tear rolling down her cheek. The end.